Welcome back. And if this is your first time here, give me just a few seconds so we can slow down together. Take a deep breath. Because what you're about to hear is not an ordinary prediction. This is a very specific turning point meant for Pisces in January 2026. There are moments in life when money stops being just money. It shows up as a signal, a reminder, a quiet touch, gentle but powerful enough to shift the direction of an entire life. If lately you've felt that something around your finances feels different, even if you can't quite put it into words yet, you're not imagining it. Something is being arranged, silently, precisely. And to understand why money is arriving at this exact moment, why it isn't random, and why after this point things cannot return to the way they were, let's begin at a very quiet place, a very deep one, where the first current has already started to move. January 2026 opens for Pisces with a feeling that's hard to explain. It's not the familiar anxiety about whether you can make enough money. It's no longer the pressure to chase numbers the way you once did. Instead, a different question rises inside you, quieter, deeper. Why is money showing up now? Why are material signals appearing at this exact moment when you're no longer urgently searching for them? Pisces can sense this from the very first days of the month, a gentle slowing of life's rhythm, a small pause between thoughts that used to rush one after another. And inside that pause, money no longer feels like fear or weight. It appears as a sign, as if something beneath the surface of your life is being rearranged, quietly, with intention. It might be a financial opportunity you weren't actively pursuing. It might be an offer coming from a place you thought was already closed. It could be money itself, a shift in resources, or a subtle movement tied to the material world that makes you stop a little longer than usual. These things don't arrive all at once. They don't bring a rush of temporary excitement. They arrive in a way that feels just right, just enough for you to notice something has changed, and just enough for you to know this is not coincidence. Pisces has always been sensitive to invisible currents. You know when something is arranged, not forced. This January, your intuition speaks clearly. Money does not show up like a gamble. It doesn't resemble past times when you had to struggle just to hold on to it. It arrives with precision, as if life waited until you were ready to look at it through a different lens. At this stage, money is no longer just a means of survival. It becomes a signal, reflecting the relationship you have with yourself, how you've given in the past, how you accepted loss without naming it, how often you did more than your share, simply because you didn't want to disappoint anyone. All of this now reflects back in a very real, very grounded way, not to blame you, not to test you, but to remind you to see your own value more clearly. During these days, Pisces may feel slightly unsettled, because when money arrives without the usual tension, you're not sure how to respond. There's no urge to grip tightly, no need to chase after it, just a calm, unmistakable presence, as if the current has finally found its own path. January doesn't ask how much you can earn. It sets no external standard. Instead, it invites you to observe. Observe how money appears. Observe how you feel when facing it. Observe the subtle shift in how you understand sufficiency. You begin to realize that some things in life don't arrive early and don't arrive late. They arrive only when you've gone far enough to understand that you are worthy. Money now feels like a soft whisper, not loud, not demanding. It doesn't come to disrupt your life, but to remind you that parts of you are ready to step into a new way of seeing. And when you allow yourself to pause in that moment, to listen slowly, you begin to feel the current still moving, gentle yet irreversible, carrying with it exactly what you'll need for the road ahead, carrying with it what you'll need for the road ahead. And within that movement, Pisces begins to realize something that's difficult to name with logic, yet deeply familiar to the heart. There are things that seem as if they passed long ago, efforts that were once overlooked, moments when you chose silence instead of asking for more, evenings when you told yourself just a little longer and everything will be okay. You didn't hold these memories with resentment, but with acceptance, yet the universe did not forget. What you gave in the past is now finding its way back to you. Not as late thank yous, not as long explanations, but in very real, grounded forms. It may be money. It may be a new source of support. It may be a tangible value that surprises you because you never thought it would still be connected to you. The first feeling isn't exactly joy. It's a pause, like touching something familiar and suddenly realizing it's heavier, more solid, less fragile than you once believed. Pisces was never driven by rewards. You gave because you believed in it. You sacrificed because you thought that was how things stayed whole. But there were times you gave too much without ever asking if you still had enough. There were seasons when you accepted loss as something natural, as if your value had to be proven through endurance. So when this current brings those things back, it doesn't arrive to comfort you right away. It arrives to ask you to face them. You may feel a mix of emotions rising, a bit of surprise, a bit of doubt, and a long, quiet space where you wonder whether you're truly ready to receive what's returning. Because when karma activates, it doesn't only bring compensation, it brings a clear reminder that everything has a cost, and that kindness, when it exists without boundaries, often asks you to pay first. What returns now doesn't always come in gentle form. It may be money paired with new responsibility, an opportunity that requires a decision instead of avoidance, a practical value that forces you to re-examine how you once measured yourself. It isn't as soft as the dreams Pisces often carries, but it's real and it's necessary. In these moments, you may feel as if you're standing between two currents. One pulls you toward old habits, where others always came first. The other opens into a new awareness, where you begin to understand that allowing yourself to receive does not make you selfish. On the contrary, it's how balance is restored. And when you stay with that feeling, without rushing to judge it, without trying to push it away, one truth becomes clearer. What's arriving is not here to test your kindness. It's here to teach you how to honor it, starting with yourself. There may be evenings during this time when Pisces sits quietly with old thoughts for a long while. Not to blame yourself for giving too much, but to understand that everything had its reason. You needed those experiences to grow in your own way. And now, as those values return in a very real form, you are no longer the person you once were. You are different. You understand more. You go deeper. And you begin to sense that this current, even if it carries early challenges, is gently guiding you back to the place where you truly belong. And as you slowly grow familiar with that feeling, life doesn't rush to give you answers. Instead, it places subtle crossroads in front of you, so delicate that if you're not truly listening, you might pass right through without realizing you're standing at an important decision. Money is still there, but it's no longer still. It's now tied to choice. Gentle, yet carrying weight. Like a question asked through a look, not through words. Pisces may feel quietly invited to step beyond a familiar comfort zone. No one is pushing you. There's no obvious pressure. Just a knowing that if you stay where you are, you'll be safe, but you won't grow anymore. And if you move forward, even without seeing the full path ahead, you sense that you'll need to change how you live, how you think, and how you value yourself. That's not an easy choice, especially for a soul that has always wanted to keep everything in balance. At times, the choice takes the shape of fast money, a convenient solution, a familiar road that brings immediate relief. But deep inside, a very quiet voice asks whether this will truly sustain you over time. On the other side, there's a slower direction, one that asks for patience, one that asks you to trust the value you're building even when results aren't visible yet. There is no absolute right or wrong here, only honesty with yourself. Pisces begins to understand that the hardest part isn't choosing between two paths. It's daring to face why you hesitate. Is it the fear of losing familiar safety? Or is it that you haven't fully believed you deserve something more lasting? Money at this stage doesn't come to buy temporary comfort. It comes to illuminate the deepest belief you carry about yourself. You may notice old habits speaking up, the ways you once limited yourself, the thought that enough was enough, that more wasn't necessary. But alongside that, a new awareness begins to form, slowly, steadily. That worth isn't proven through endurance. That value isn't measured by how much you sacrifice, but by how well you protect what you've created. And right there, in the space between old and new, between safety and change, money becomes a very personal test. No one is grading you. No one is watching. It's just you and the feeling you carry as you stand at the choice. When you're brave enough to listen, not to fear, but to the truth inside, you begin to see that what matters most isn't the amount you choose, but the person you become through that choice. And once the decision is made, in whatever direction it leads, the current continues to move, carrying you one step further along a path that is slowly, quietly opening. And once the decision has been set down, whether in silence or after long hesitation, a different feeling begins to spread. Not loud, not dramatic, but clear enough that you can no longer turn away from it. Like morning light touching a familiar room, suddenly revealing every shadow. Not to make you uncomfortable, but to let you see things exactly as they are. Pisces enters this phase with a very different kind of clarity. Money no longer hides anything. Relationships once wrapped in uncertainty begin to show their true shape. You see who benefited from your silence, who leaned on your kindness without ever asking whether you still had enough. Not with blame, but with clear vision. And it is this clarity that begins to change you. There are moments when Pisces suddenly realizes you have underestimated yourself for a very long time. Not because you weren't capable, but because you grew used to believing your value came from making others comfortable. You once thought that asking for more or setting boundaries meant becoming difficult. But now, as money reflects everything back, you see clearly that the lack of boundaries cost you far more than it ever needed to. The ties between money and emotion start to appear in sharp detail. The times you stayed because you feared lack. Financial decisions made just to hold together a relationship that was no longer balanced. Choices that required you to trade your peace for a sense of short-term security. All of it now stands uncovered, no longer hidden by familiar justifications, bare but honest. Like a mirror you can no longer turn away from. Pisces no longer feels the need to explain, no longer feels the urge to prove how hard you tried. You begin to understand that truth doesn't need defending with words. It stands on its own when you're brave enough to look straight at it. And when you do, something inside you grows lighter, because you no longer carry old stories to justify choices that no longer fit who you are. There may be moments that aren't comfortable, moments when you realize certain relationships, certain ways of earning, certain commitments no longer align with the person you're becoming. But instead of pain, the stronger feeling is release. Like opening a room that's been closed for too long. At first, dust, then fresh air moving in. Pisces begins to see the full picture. No more scattered pieces. Everything connects clearly. What you gave, what you received, what you accepted, and what you need to let go of. Once the truth is revealed, you can't return to the old way. Not because you don't want to, but because you've seen too much to pretend you didn't know. Within that clarity, there's a feeling that's strange, yet beautiful. Freedom. Not freedom from money, but freedom from invisible bindings that once made you shrink yourself. You begin to understand that honoring your own value doesn't erase the kindness that defines Pisces. It places that kindness where it truly belongs. And when you rest in that awareness, without rushing to act, without needing to announce anything to the world, the current begins to move again. Lighter, cleaner, as if space has been created, just enough for something new, something more aligned to quietly find its way into your life. Naturally, calmly, and truly. And within the space that has just been created, Pisces begins to feel something very clearly, something you once tried to avoid. That to hold on to more, sometimes you have to be willing to let go of what once felt familiar. Not because it was bad, not because it was wrong, but because it has already completed its role in your life. There were sources of income that helped you survive difficult seasons. relationships that once brought a sense of safety, ways of earning money that felt reassuring simply because they were familiar. But as the light grows clearer, you begin to see they no longer nourish you the way they once did. The first feeling that comes with letting go is not relief. It's a natural hesitation. Pisces has never been good at leaving. You tend to stay a little longer, give one more time, try just a bit harder, all because you don't want to hurt anyone, including yourself. But this time, letting go doesn't come from impulse or exhaustion. It comes from a quiet awareness that if you keep holding on, you'll pay with your life energy. It may be an income stream that no longer fits who you're becoming. It brings money, but takes your peace. It may be a relationship tied to finances, where you constantly sacrifice emotion to preserve stability. Or it may simply be an old belief that you must accept less to avoid risk. Whatever form it takes, the feeling is the same. It no longer feels right. Letting go during this time doesn't happen loudly. There are no announcements, no dramatic endings. It's like setting down something you've been carrying for far too long. At first, there's emptiness, as if you've lost a familiar support. But very quickly, you notice your hands feel lighter, your breath goes deeper, and in that space, there is room for something else to enter. Pisces begins to understand that loss isn't always a sign of lack. Sometimes it's a sign of rebalancing. When you release a flow of money that no longer feels clean energetically, you're sending a clear signal that you're ready to receive values that align better. When you close the door on a relationship that is no longer fair, you free yourself from bindings that made you shrink. In the early days, you may still question yourself. Old fears may return softly. Fear of lack, fear of instability, fear that you went too far. But little by little, you begin to sense a different current forming. Not rushed, not loud, but real. New opportunities don't arrive immediately, yet you notice you're no longer being worn down. You no longer feel you must trade yourself just to survive. This time, letting go doesn't weaken you. It clarifies you. You start to see clearly which money nourishes your life and which money only keeps you trapped. You understand that abundance isn't just about how much you have, but about the sense of safety inside you when you use what you have. And when you choose alignment over familiarity, you begin laying the foundation for a new flow of money. Cleaner, more stable, more true to who you really are. In the quiet, after letting go, a very special feeling appears. Trust. Not blind trust, but trust built from experience. You've been through enough to know you can stand on your own. And when you rest in that trust, without rushing to fill the space, life begins to respond in the gentlest way, as if the current has been cleansed and what is new, what is right, is quietly finding its way to you, at the right time, in the right way, just for you. And as the new current begins to take shape, Pisces realizes that the deepest change is not happening outside, but in the way you now stand within yourself. A new steadiness appears, very different from the fragility you once knew. You no longer look at money with hesitation. You no longer let emotions steer every decision. Instead, there's a grounded maturity, as if, after countless cycles, you finally learned how to stand still without fear. Pisces begins to feel your boundaries clearly, not through hardness, not through withdrawal, but through respect. You know when to say yes and when to stop. You no longer feel guilty for declining something that drains you, even if it once made you feel safe. Boundaries are no longer walls. They become door frames, protecting the quality of your inner space. And within that space, money now has a clear, rightful place. There is a subtle shift in how you see your own value. You no longer measure yourself by how much you've sacrificed or how much you've endured. Instead, you begin asking a different question. What do I deserve? Stability, a sense of enough without constant worry. Resources that reflect both your effort and your heart. Once that question is asked honestly, many things begin to reorganize on their own. Pisces also stops fearing that money will change who you are. You understand now that what alters a person is not money itself, but the fear of not having it. As that fear dissolves, you remain who you've always been, only stronger. Compassion is still there. Kindness remains intact, but you no longer allow them to be misused. You learn how to give without emptying yourself. And that is a beautiful form of maturity. There are moments when you notice yourself making financial decisions with a calm you've never known before. No rushing, no emotional pull. You weigh things carefully. You listen inwardly. You trust your own experience. Money no longer tightens your chest when you think about it. It becomes a tool, one that helps you build a life aligned with your inner rhythm. A tool that serves you, not one that controls you. Pisces begins to see clearly that true wealth is not about how much you have, but about how safe you feel using what you have. When money stops being pressure, your mind opens. You think farther ahead. You see more deeply. You choose not only for today, but for the person you're becoming in the years to come. This is where inner strength forms, quietly, solidly. Within this rhythm, a warmth spreads. The feeling that you no longer need to prove anything to the world. No racing, no comparison. You move at your own pace with a quiet confidence. Money walks beside you like a trustworthy companion. No grand promises, no invisible pressure. Just enough to support you, enough to nourish you, enough to help you continue forward with a lighter heart. And as this steadiness becomes natural, you begin to sense a very subtle movement in the air around you, as if life itself is responding to your growth with new signals. No need to name them, no need to predict them, just a clear feeling that the road ahead is opening in a different way, in a way that fits, in a way that honors everything you've already walked through. And as the final days of January quietly pass, Pisces begins to realize you're standing in a very different place from where you started. There was no dramatic moment to mark the change, no bell, no obvious sign, just an ordinary morning when you look around your life and suddenly notice everything has shifted, subtly, yet undeniably. Money is still there, but your relationship with it is no longer the same. You no longer view it with the familiar anxiety, nor do you give it excessive power. You understand now that money is only one part of a much larger current, reflecting how you live and how you treat yourself. And within that understanding, there is a deep calm. You don't need to grip tightly. You're no longer afraid to let go. You know you can navigate. Pisces realizes that the greatest shift is not in the numbers in your account, but in how you earn money. You no longer accept paths that drain you simply because they're familiar. You choose what aligns with your values, with your own rhythm of living. And when you hold money now, you don't hold it out of fear of loss, but out of appreciation. You understand that money belongs where it nourishes life, not where it creates invisible pressure. Even the way you give has changed. It's no longer giving from the need to sacrifice in order to be seen. You give when your heart is full, when you know you remain steady afterward. Generosity no longer depletes you. It connects you more deeply to the world around you. That is a quiet, beautiful form of maturity, one that feels deeply Pisces. Looking back on this January, you can clearly see each piece that brought you here. New awareness, difficult choices, letting go that wasn't easy, and moments when you trusted yourself just a little more than before. All of it has contributed to a transformation that cannot be reversed. Not because you can't go back, but because you no longer want to live the old way. There's a clear sense that fate touched your life through money, but it didn't stop there. It touched how you see value, how you set boundaries, how you allow yourself to live with enough. And when that touch arrives, it isn't loud, but it leaves a deep mark. You are no longer bound to old cycles. You've stepped out of a familiar orbit without needing to reject or erase the past. Pisces understands that change will continue from here, but you are no longer afraid of it. You've learned how to stand steady within the current. You know you can adapt without losing your essence. You know you can go farther while still holding your natural softness. And most importantly, you know you are worthy of a life where money, emotion, and inner values exist in harmony. As January comes to a close, there is no rigid conclusion, only a clear feeling that an old cycle has completed its purpose, and a new journey is opening. No rush, no need to prove anything. All that's required is that you keep walking with the awareness awakened in these first days of the year. Because from the moment fate touched your finances, Your life chose a different direction. And this time, you walk that path with understanding, with strength, and with a heart calm enough to receive whatever waits ahead.